Hello and welcome to our taster session on combating micrographia. Here's Richelle Flanagan from the Dublin Branch to introduce our speaker.
Disorder specialist who actually saw at the World Parkinson's Congress in Kyoto in 2019, and he had written an article about the Creative Nuerology Micrographia workshop. So just to give you a bit of background, it was developed in 2014 after seeing a need to educate the public, professionals, and most importantly, provide a resource to those living with Parkinson's disease. Creative Nuerology was formerly known as the ARCART, is the only organisation in the world that provides research-based programming to those living with micrographia. And also in this, they do a number of workshops, and they have shown that there is improvement in handwriting is seen as as little as 3 to 6 weeks, and basically gives people the kind of heightened confidence to be able to write better and more confidently. And also I think people's quality of life improves, and Saba will mention that in her workshop talk today. So basically it's the workshop series are supported by the United States National Institute of Health as well. So I'm going to pass you over now. I'm delighted to have Saba here today for our Taster Week, and hope you have a pen and paper to hand. You might be doing a little bit of work. So I'll hand you over. Thanks very much for coming along.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Richelle. Thank you, Karen, for that warm welcome. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here with you all today. And again, thank you so much for joining us. So I will share my screen. I do have a short presentation. Okay. All right. So we have two signature programs, Smile Through Art and Let's Combat Micrographia. Our main goal and mission is to help people with Parkinson's learn to live better with their symptoms instead of feeling burdened by them. I also have a personal connection with Parkinson's. My mother-in-law had Parkinson's and unfortunately passed away at the young age of 55. And so I never had the opportunity of meeting her. She passed away prior to me meeting my husband. But anytime, I'm in any type of setting such as this today and surrounded by people with Parkinson's, I feel like I get to meet a piece of her from each and every one of you. So again, thank you very much for welcoming us today. So I'm going to start off today's discussion first with the micrographia portion. We'll talk through that a little bit. I'll be sharing some tips and tricks that everyone can be doing at home, as well as sharing some more information about our programming. And then we'll get into the Smile Through Art portion. And Richelle, Karen, if at any point you feel that it's best for us to take a break between the two and ask questions, then we can also do that. Okay, so just to give you a bit more information and history about our Let's Combat Micrographia program. So back in 2014, we saw that there was a need to educate the greater Parkinson's community, as well as provide a resource to people living with Parkinson's to improve this symptom. In 2016, after 2 years of intensive research, what we did out here, so we're based out in the United States, and so we put together a bunch of focus groups in our home state of Massachusetts to figure out what works and what does not work when it comes to micrographia and Parkinson's. So after 2 years, in 2016, we published our first edition, Let's Combat Micrographia workbook. And then 2 years later, we continued doing our research. And in 2018, that's when we were recognized by the United States National Institute of Health as the only resource available to people living with Parkinson's to help with this symptom. Back then, they then provided us with a grant to now put together the 4 years of research that we've been doing. And in 2019, we were able to publish our second edition, Let's Combat Micrographia workbook. Back then as well, we started doing more and more workshops, in-person workshops. This was pre-COVID. So we were able to see all of our participants in person, but because we were getting more of an audience from internationally and from other states as well, back in 2019, we also created our completely autonomous, self-paced Let's Combat Micrographia workshop series that's available for anyone, accessible online and can get started from the comfort of their own home. So I think we kind of timed that well with COVID because we've been seeing more and more of an influx of people joining those sessions as well now. Back in 2020, we published our second edition workbook in Spanish because, as many of you may or may not know, there is a rise of the Hispanic population and diagnosis of Parkinson's. So we wanted to have a resource for them as well. We also published an interactive journal And just this year, we also released a special Micrographia notebook. So as you see, we're constantly releasing more resources, new resources for people with Parkinson's to be able to obtain, get a hold of, so they can continue to improve this symptom. Living in this world of technology, many of us, don't necessarily pick up a pen or a pencil, right? People are so in tuned with their smartphones, with their laptops. But micrographia is something, that can be overcome. And it's something that's very personable to people with Parkinson's, right? It's something that's very empowering. And so it's our goal to give you that feeling of empowerment and that feeling of confidence back into your lives. When you pick up that pen or pencil and you sit down to write, you know that you can do it. So I'm going to take you through now some of those things that, some of those frustrations that may come up and what we can do to continue improving that. So before we get there, today we are in 5 different continents. Our resources are shared internationally now. So to talk a little bit about what micrographia is, right? So if you break down the word micrographia, micro means small and graphia means writing. So it's small handwriting. So micrographia is small, slanted, illegible handwriting. It is a prodromal symptom. I know when Richelle started talking, she said that one of the first things she noticed was her handwriting, right? There was something wrong there. And so what it means to be a prodromal symptom is that oftentimes micrographia occurs early on, but people don't learn about it until later on in their progression. And so we have so many people with Parkinson's that come to us and say, oh my God, I've been struggling with my handwriting, but I didn't know this was a cause of my Parkinson's. So there's, if you're in that boat, don't worry, because there's still, improvements that can be made regardless of if you found out about it early on, in your diagnosis of Parkinson's, or if you're just finding out about it now. So here's some interesting stats that I like to share with people. And this is a survey that we sent out to all of our students, our participants. So believe it or not, 71.4% of people living with Parkinson's have not talked to their movement disorder specialist about micrographia. That is a huge number. And so we are trying to change the statistic, through education as well as just through teaching, folks more about micrographia, whether it be the person with Parkinson's or whether it be a professional. Another stat here. So we asked our participants if they know more about how to combat micrographia today after completing the course than when they first enrolled. 100%, we've had amazing, amazing results. And I'm going to be sharing some case studies with you guys as well here in a few slides that show when you put in a little bit of effort and you follow our research-based methodology, you can 100% improve your handwriting. So here's one example that you see here. So this is week 1, small, slanted, many of the words I would say are very, very illegible, right? And then here in week 6, you see a huge improvement, right? Complete 360, where this person is now able to properly write again. So this is one example of micrographia, right? So micrographia comes in varying forms as well. So just because one person's handwriting may look like this doesn't mean the next person's handwriting will look like this, right? Just like several other symptoms of Parkinson's are, considered snowflake symptoms, right? Where it could be different from person to person. That's how micrographia is as well. There may be, you may have the small letters, or you may have illegibility, or you may have slanted letters. So, or you may have it all, right? But these case studies are to show you that regardless of what level you are at, there is improvement that can be made. So this is one example. Before we get into the other examples, I want to talk a little bit about some challenges that come when you have micrographia, right? So if we're living with micrographia, there's this level of frustration, right? This level of, man, I wish I could just pick up this pen or pencil and start writing. And we'll talk about how to overcome some of these frustrations. There's some people that have tremors that may have shakiness in their hands, right? That's another added stress to wanting to write legibly. For most of us, right, we want to move faster than our hand allows. We're always thinking about the next word, thinking about the next letter that we're going to put down. And oftentimes that is also, a factor that's going to prevent us from writing legibly. And then overall, there's this, lack of control, right? So having a lack of control, we teach you through our workshops how to regain that control back. And that can happen through several ways, which I'll be talking about here on the next slide. So how do you overcome some of these challenges, right? So frustration, one of the biggest techniques that we teach in both of our Let's Combat Micrographia workshops, as well as our Smile Through Art workshops, is anytime you're feeling frustrated, you want to take a step back, take a deep breath, reevaluate, and restart again, right? When we have calmness in us, when we have a bit of, when we have time to reevaluate what we're doing, and even in just 30 seconds of taking a deep breath, letting it all out and starting again, we tend to do better, right? When you come into working on improving your handwriting with a positive mindset, right, that's going to be huge in allowing you to improve this symptom. And so the next thing that we always recommend is if you do have shakiness or if you do have tremors, right, you want to write during your on periods. And so most of us know that that's 30 to 45 minutes after taking medication, right? So writing during your on periods is going to be very, very important because again, you're going to have less frustrations, right? Because your symptoms will be less progressive at that time. So if you have, a to-do list to write, if you want to work on checks, if you want to write a card, if you want to, whatever that writing exercise may be, try to time that during your on periods because you will, again, do better. So the next thing, we talked about, we always want to move faster, right? So the biggest thing with micrographia is that we need to have patience with ourselves, right? And we need to slow down. It is extremely important that we slow down because that's what's going to allow us to analyze our handwriting and to make those improvements where they are needed. And then finally, this idea of lack of control, right? It comes with being receptive to knowing that we have micrographia, right? Accepting that and moving forward with the different tools and techniques and methodologies that will allow you to regain that control, right? But again, it all starts with having that positive mindset and knowing that, hey, this is a problem that I have, but I know that there's something that I can do to improve it. And so this brings me into, how to improve micrographia. These are some tips from our methodology that I'd like to share with you guys here today. So I talked about this briefly just on the last slide, acceptance, right? This is very, very important. When it comes to anything in life, if there's something that we're struggling with, when we sit down and we accept that, right? We know that, hey, this is something that I want to work on. You make it your goal to work towards it, and you're able to do that much better, right? So acceptance is huge. The second thing that I want to mention is it's very important that we continue to write, right? Oftentimes, many of our students that come to us, they've stopped writing completely or they depend on their spouse or care partner to write for them, right? You want to take back that control. Even if it's going to a doctor's office to sign your name, or if you're going to a support group meeting that may be in person to sign your name, take ownership of that, right? You want to take advantage of every moment that you have to be able to write in those situations, because that's a part of you also regaining that control back, right? And the other thing I love to compare writing to is if we can all kind of go back in time and think about the first time you went to the gym or you got on any type of exercise equipment, right? The first time you got on that, let's say, stationary bike, you're huffing and puffing, it's hurting, you're questioning why you're on that bike, right? You're just like, man, why am I putting myself through this? But after the first week goes by, you feel better. After the second week goes by, you're doing great. Your endurance is building up. The third week comes by, you're doing awesome, right? You're pushing yourself. And then the fourth week comes, you start to teeter off. The fifth week comes, you take a week off, and then let's go back to the gym week 6. You're going to find yourself back kind of where you were around week 2, where you're trying to struggle, you're struggling, you're pushing yourself to continue, to get back to where you were at your peak. And that's exactly how handwriting is, right? So there's ways for you to improve it, but it is something that you have to constantly keep working at, even if it's just writing your name every single day, right? You have to continue doing it. The nice thing about our course is that it teaches you everything that you need if you were to have that type of moment in your life where you needed to just, maybe take take a break from writing for a week, for 2 weeks, you'll know what you need to do to bring yourself back to have your writing be at its peak. So very, very important, right, to take those opportunities that are presented in front of you, whether it be writing a doctor's form, whether it be writing a check, and taking ownership of that. And then the third thing I like to mention here briefly are writing aids, right? Writing aids are something that allow us to regain that control back as well. If you look at this picture here, this person's holding on to a writing aid, right? There are several different types of writing aids. One of the things that we do in our program is we actually send out writing aids to you so you can experiment with them. And we have a whole workshop that's just focused on how to properly use writing aids. This is a nice quote that I like to share. It's empowering. The Let's Combat Micrographia workshop series not only improved my handwriting, but due to the strength I gained in my hands, I'm now able to start playing piano again. So it's really amazing to see how when you do focus on your hands, right, and you give them the attention they need, you can not only start writing again, but you'll see that built strength and endurance in other areas that'll allow you to do activities like playing the piano. And so that brings me to my next topic here. A big part of our curriculum is rebuilding hand endurance, right? This is the term that we use, that we've coined. And so oftentimes, you know, hand strength is it's forgotten, right? We do so much with our hands on a daily basis, whether it be writing, whether it be opening up a door, whether it be, you know, zipping up your jacket. Our hands are involved in so many things. And unfortunately, many times we forget to take care of them. And so hand strength is extremely, extremely important when it comes to regaining that ability to write again. So if we have a couple seconds here, I just want to take everyone through a quick hand stretch that you can do, you know, during your own time at home. And so what this is just going to require you to do is just have your hands out like this in front of you. And what I want everyone to do is we're just going to stretch our hands out as far as they'll stretch, and then you're going to bring it back in. We're going to stretch out, and then we're going to bring it back in. And I know that I can't hear you guys right now, but I do want you to count out loud with me. We'll just do this 5 times, okay? So let's go ahead. 1, nice and loud. 2, 3, 4, one more, 5. Very good. And I'm going to show you one more. So this one is you're going to squeeze, you're going to make a fist, and then you're going to stretch and release. Right, so we're going to squeeze, you're going to squeeze that wrist, your fist really hard, and then you're going to stretch. Let's go ahead and count to 5 again. So 1, squeeze, release. 2, squeeze, release. 3, squeeze, release. 4, squeeze, release. And last one, 5, squeeze, release. Very good. So I'm already feeling it in my hands. Hopefully you're feeling it in your hands too. But something, you know, these 2 small exercises you could be doing if you're watching TV, you know, just to get more of that activity, more of that strength back in your hands. So here's another example that I wanted to show you guys of another person. So this was their handwriting week 1. So you can see it has the slantedness. Some of the words are illegible. This was the handwriting in week 3. And then this was their handwriting in week 6. So another, you know, awesome improvement. And this also goes to show those people that like to write in cursive that you can continue writing in cursive and make that cursive legible. Here's another example. So this person naturally liked to write in all capital letters, as you can see here. This was their handwriting week 1. So again, very, very small. Some words are illegible, you know, it is definitely hard to read. And then this was their handwriting in week 6. So again, huge improvement, you know, much more legible, and still continue to write in that writing style that they preferred. This is another example. So this is a case of severe micrographia. If you look here, this first picture, completely illegible, right? Just in 3 weeks, this person was able to start forming letters again. This person was a professor, believe it or not, and so did a lot of writing during her career. And so just being able to get back to this, to be able to form letters again, was an extremely, extremely empowering moment, right? To be able to go from writing, you know, something that's completely illegible to be able to start forming letters again. So the reason why I just showed you, right, those 3 different examples, actually, I think I'm going to get into that on the next slide. So before I get into that, here's just some, additional nice quotes, empowering quotes from other people that have attended our workshops, our graduates. So people say, they can write checks again. This person said that it was her dad's birthday and she wrote a card. She sent him the card and her dad said that her handwriting was noticeably better and more like normal writing. This person said, after the first week, I had to sign my name. The letters were wobbly. They were legible again in years. And then my movement disorder specialist noticed a big difference in my handwriting. So lots of, encouraging, empowering quotes here from past graduates. This is a picture of one of our recent classes that just graduated. You can see smiling faces. And so, so the reason why I had showed you all those 3 to 4 different case studies is that there are varying levels of micrographia, right? There's varying levels of physical and cognitive abilities as well, which comes with Parkinson's. So the way we've developed our curriculum is that we enable you and empower you to take ownership back of this symptom, right? And through our community-based approach, you're able to learn from our professors, and you're also able to, learn from one another as well. The nice thing about Zoom now is that we have people from all over the world, so you're meeting other people living with Parkinson's from all over the world, and it really becomes this close-knit family as we meet for an extended duration of time. And together we see that we're able to make these improvements in several areas, right? Not just in handwriting, but in several areas of our lives. And so to go into a little bit more about what we have available for you as resources. So currently we have 5 published resources. These are available on our website. They range anywhere from $15 to $30. And we also have an additional 6th book, but that is exclusively sent to our students that enroll in our program. We also have live workshops that occur, so through our Zoom platform. Our next one is starting up on April 26th. So I'll be happy to share additional information about that once with Richelle and the team out there. And if anyone is interested, you guys can shoot us an email. We also have a completely autonomous self-paced workshop option. And so this is the one where you can just log on, create your account. You will still be sent all the materials to you, but this is the one that you take during your own time. So we found this option works really well for those people with Parkinson's that are still working, that may have some type of time commitment where they can't necessarily join the live workshop series. So you still get the same benefits, you still get interaction with our professors. All of your work is reviewed and you get feedback on what you can be doing better to improve your handwriting. So both options are extremely interactive. And then we also have educational packets, some similar to what we're doing here today. This is an informative session. So if anyone would like additional, printed information about micrographia, again, you can, or our art workshops, you can feel free to shoot us an email. We also have our Live Better blog. And so in this blog, we're constantly adding new articles. So one recent article we published was effective note-taking for a person living with Parkinson's that still may be working. We also have an article on there about creativity and COVID-19. So if you're ever looking for resources specific to micrographia, if you want some tips, some tricks, feel free to take a look at our blog, as that'll provide you with those those improvements that you could be making. So Richelle, would you like me to continue going on? Take that as a yes. Okay. So I will go into now about our Smile Through Art workshops and how creativity has an impact on Parkinson's. And then hopefully at the end, we can leave some time for questions, okay? So our Smile Through Art workshops is really where we got started from. Again, back in 2014, we saw that there was a need for introducing art back into the lives of people with Parkinson's, right? With Parkinson's being a disorder that is primarily a movement disorder that requires us to use our fine motor skills and gross motor skills, we were able to research and find out that there's actually a lot that can be done through art to help improve some of those symptoms of Parkinson's. So if you think about art, right, what is the definition of art? The arts, or also called fine arts, are modes of expression that use skill or imagination in the creation of aesthetic objects, environments, or experiences that can be shared with others. So art comes in several different forms, right? And here on the next slide, I have some examples of the types of arts we have. So drawing, painting, sculpture, design, decorative art, writing, poetry, acting, drama, music. These are all different forms of art, right? One common misconception that we see in some of our participants that want to come to our workshops but are a bit hesitant is that people sometimes have this preconceived notion that they need to have artistic abilities to participate in an artistic program. And so for our Smile Through Art workshops, that is definitely not the case. We have people that haven't done anything creative in years and years and years. You know, the last time they picked up a marker or any type of coloring instrument was back when they were in grade school, right? So years and years ago. And so, you know, if you do have any art programs near you that are available, I would highly recommend that you take advantage of that, because there's, again, as you see on the screen here, there's so many different forms of art, right? And so when you give your chance the ability to experiment and to see what you may like, you can see that that will open up this whole new, door of allowing you to express yourself in a different way, whether it's through music, whether it's through writing, whether it's through painting or drawing, right? You'll never know if that's something for you until you don't try. And so that is a really big goal of our program, is to expose you to these different forms of art so you can find that outlet to help you cope with your Parkinson's. And so it was a very, very, one of our biggest goals and missions when we first got started, and even now was to spread awareness that the inability to smile or facial masking is a symptom of Parkinson's disease, right? This is also where my title comes from, Chief Smiling Officer. And so what I like, what we made it our goal to do here is it's very important to spread awareness about this, right? Oftentimes, many people with Parkinson's are misinterpreted, misunderstood, because, people don't know that facial masking or the inability to smile is actually a symptom of Parkinson's. So based around that, that's how we developed our Smile Through Art curriculum through our research-based approach, and we're able to start seeing people with Parkinson's start smiling again through art. And so what are some focus areas of our Smile Through Art workshops? So we focus on fine motor control, gross motor control, rigidity, depression. Believe it or not, so many studies have been done around depression and how art can help heal. Micrographia, hand-eye coordination, attention, and focus. These are all different things that our curriculum involves and helps you see how you can use art to improve these. And here's another nice quote. I'd like to share my recent visit with my movement disorder neurologist. During my visit, he did a check on both my motor skills using both my dominant and non-dominant hands. He was very pleased with my results. I told him that it was all from working with the art cart. And so, we, believe it or not, art, can require you to use not only your dominant hand, but also your non-dominant hand. And so we do a lot of work with that as well, because anytime you use that non-dominant side, you're actually building and strengthening that opposite side of your brain. And so what are some benefits of creativity and art that we've seen in our Smile Through Art workshops? So art is an amazing way to relieve stress, right? Stress we all encounter in some way, shape, or form. And so when you're focused on an activity, whether it be painting, whether it be coloring, whether it be making, some type of pottery, whatever that art activity may be, you get so focused. And I can't tell you time and time again how many people we've seen that we've worked with in person, how if they have a tremor, their tremor stops, right? If they're feeling rigid, their rigidity lessens. And this is because we're so focused on that positive activity that we're working on, that you're reducing stress to that creative process. Art also promotes creative thinking, right? So oftentimes in our workshops, we see this time and time again, because we give very little direction and we allow the person with Parkinson's to take that little bit of instruction and create, right? So our creative minds are amazing, and there's really so much, if we allow ourselves to create, that we can create and we will create. And, after you create this beautiful piece, whether it be, your painting, your sculpture, whatever it is, it provides a sense of accomplishment. Right? You just created something beautiful. You just spent the time, you worked with your symptoms instead of feeling burdened by them to create something. That is a huge feeling of empowerment and accomplishment. And through that, we're building confidence in ourselves. We're building confidence in our abilities, right? There's so many studies that have been done that show that art improves quality of life, right? And overall, Parkinson's or no Parkinson's, there's been studies that have been done that shows this improvement of quality of life. And then again, anytime you engage yourself in something new, right, whether it be creative or, anything new, you're actually increasing neuroplasticity, right? Anytime we do any type of new activity, our brains are working in a different way. We're creating new pathways. We're engaging our minds in different ways. And so that's really the beautiful thing about art, is where it allows you to think creatively, allows you to create, and you get all these wonderful benefits. And so another very important thing about art is that it promotes positive mental health, right? So if we think about the current climate that we're all living in, we're all living in this pandemic, right? Unfortunately, because we've been living in this pandemic, many of us have been isolated, right? Many of us haven't had the ability to go do the things that we love. And so how can we promote positive mental health for ourselves, right? We can do that through art. And there was a study that was done that shows in people who were diagnosed with Parkinson's, 50% at some point in their disease progression will encounter depression, and 40% at some point will encounter anxiety, right? So as we just saw in the previous slides, art helps cope with these things, right? Art is an outlet that will allow us to release some of that stress and take control of having some positivity back in our lives. And so this is a study that we did that was presented at the World Parkinson's Congress in 2016. It's also been published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease and Parkinsonianism. We found that our participants with Parkinson's had a 98% increase in mood, right? From before our workshop to after our workshop. And that meant that they went from a low level of mood to a heightened level of mood, whether that was feeling sad to feeling content, feeling sad to feeling happy, from angry to content, angry to happy, or content to happy. And the remainder 2% stayed stagnant at where they were initially. So this goes to show, our workshops are about an hour 15, hour and a half long. In that short amount of time, right, partaking in some type of creative activity can help you combat those feelings and symptoms of depression, can help you combat anxiety, can help you feel less stressed, and will allow you to, feel better. And so this is a, very, very important for us to think about as we continue to live through this pandemic. And so a few more stats here. We've been doing some research around how creativity is impacting people living with Parkinson's during a pandemic. And so 100% of our participants have said that the virtual Smile Through Art workshops have helped them learn about what they can do to live better with Parkinson's. And then the next one here, virtual Smile Through Art workshop has helped people with Parkinson's feel positive about living better with their Parkinson's. Right, so these are very important things, especially while living during a pandemic, is we need to find that support system. We need to find that outlet to allow us to continue, living as positively as we can while we maneuver ourselves through this pandemic. This is just a nice picture that I like to share. This gentleman had a very, very severe case of tremors, but you can see he fought through those tremors and he created this beautiful piece of art. And this is just another nice picture of many of our other participants. And one of the reasons I like to share this and why we have on the slide here, it says many tulips of Parkinson's. As you may or may not know, tulips is the symbol of Parkinson's disease, right? And if you think about the tulip, right, the tulip begins with its roots. It's its foundation, right? So all of us being a community here today together, we're one another's foundation, right? We are going to help each other through. And I always say we're so much stronger when we work together to better one another and to better our symptoms. If you think about the stalk of the tulip, right? that's our, that could be us, right? That's our support system. Some of these tulips, as you see on here, have leaves, right? So that's us reaching out to others in the community, to our family members, looking for that support. And then the petals, you know, all these petals are beautiful colors, different colors. And so if you think about art, you think about, you know, various different colors, you know, blue can represent calmness, red can represent power, yellow can represent sunshine. There's so many different interpretations when it comes to art. But you know, the main goal here, and for why we're together here today is so you all know that, you know, we are all in this together, and we are all here to work together to, you know, improve the lives of those living with Parkinson's. So, you know, the next time you're having any moments of self-doubt, just know that even though we're living in this pandemic, there's always someone out there who will be, you know, your tulip. And so how are we creating? So we have our live Smile Through Art workshops, which are open to people, you know, living worldwide. We also have special smile kits that we mail out to people that they can do. You know, we work with various different organizations worldwide to provide virtual programming, and we're continuing to measure the impact of COVID-19 on Parkinson's as we continue our workshop series. So how else can you start creating, right? So if we have a few minutes here, I wanted to just do a quick drawing with everyone. Will that work? Okay, so if everyone has that piece of paper with them, I'm just gonna grab my piece of paper. And I'm just going to stop sharing here for a second. And I'm still on large screen. Okay, very good. So go ahead and grab that piece of paper. And so this is prior to me knowing that your symbol of Parkinson's was not also a tulip. But for today, we will draw a tulip, okay? So and I'll show you how to, you know, I'll show an easy way to draw a tulip, but you can totally take this however you want and, you know, create your own form of a flower or a tulip. So again, this is us getting our creative minds at work. We're engaging ourselves now. And so while you're making this flower or this tulip or your leaf, whatever you want it to be, I want you to think about, right, some of those people, some of the foundations that you have, your support system, that's going to help you continue navigating positively through Parkinson's, right? I want you to think about that. And so I'm just gonna put my screen down so you can see, here's an easy way to draw a tulip. So all you have to do is you make a U, and you can make yours as big or small as you want. You can make more than one. So you make a U, and then you go to one of the tops, and you bring it back down. And then you go to the other side, and you'll bring that back down, and you'll touch at the middle. And then you can create your top. If you want to add in another leaf in there, you can do that as well. Another petal, I should say, sorry. Okay, so again, remember that yours does not have to look like this. This is just one way of making a tulip, a flower. You can make your stem. And then if you wanted to make some leaves, you can make some leaves. And remember, as you're doing this, I want you to think about the positive ways your system, your support system, that's going to enable you to continue living better with Parkinson's, to continue fighting those symptoms, to continue feeling positive, right? And so I just want to give everyone a couple minutes here. Go ahead and complete this flower however you see best. Add in leaves, you can add in grass, you can add in the sun, you can add in more petals, you can create more flowers. Just give everyone a minute here. All right, so I know I only gave everyone a couple minutes here to work on this, but is there a way that we can have everyone put up their tulips or their flowers on the screen so we can see what everyone made? Let's see, let's put these up. Very nice. Look at some of these. Absolutely beautiful. And some of you even got color into it. That's amazing. And so, you know, if you haven't finished this, which is totally okay, because I know I only gave you a couple minutes to work on it, this is something you can work on, you know, after this session is over, add some color to it, right? Remember, when you're thinking about colors too, every color represents something different, right? Where blue represents calmness, yellow can represent sunshine or light, red represents power. Think about that if you are adding colors in, and think about, you know, all the positive ways that you're going to continue empowering yourselves and continue fighting against Parkinson's as you are drawing and as you are coloring. So I'm just going to share my screen again. I think we're almost at the end. Okay. So feel free to color in your tulip and you can send it in to us. We'll share it on our social media. Some other ways that you can start creating now. Coloring books are amazing, right? They're a great way, a great outlet to help with, you know, releasing some of that stress to help you get focused. Coloring books you can find, you know, very, very cheap. Doodling, believe it or not, right, is an extremely awesome form of relieving stress and art as well. There's actually been studies done around doodling, and many of those kids that get reprimanded for doodling while in class, their brains, it shows, are actually focusing in a way that's allowing them to engage better with the topic. So anytime you find yourself, you know, with a pen or a pencil and you're doodling, go for it, right? You're actually processing your thoughts and you're helping yourself relax. There's many smartphone applications now. I don't know if people have, you know, iPhones, Androids, iPads, whatever it may be. You can find a lot of, you know, great coloring apps that way as well. We always welcome people to join our Smile Through Art workshops too. And, you know, our doors are always open to people regardless of where you may or may not be living. If you ever have any questions about, you know, how to help your, you know, how to get involved in art or how to help with your micrographia, you can always feel free to shoot us an email at livebetter@creativeneurology.com. And our websites are on the screen here. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as well. And I believe yep, that is all I had. So if you guys would like to open it up to questions, I'd be happy to do that.
Thanks a million, Saba. That was absolutely fantastic. It was very informative, I think. It was really interesting, and that was interesting at the end, mentioning about the doodle being good for, you know, concentration. I think it's really interesting about the doodling, that it helps you to engage, you know. I'm just aware of ADHD is similarly in terms of you talk about kids, you know, and sometimes kids with ADHD, and it basically is a similar condition in terms of lack of dopamine, you know, and doodling. And I didn't realize, you know, actually it's a similar maybe in terms of Parkinson's, because we can suffer from executive function issues as well in terms of concentration and that. So I'm always doing doodles, little boxes and stuff like that. And it was interesting about the colors, you know, in terms of the different kind of colors and how they can affect us. So no, it was really interesting. And I think as well, you touched on the fact that, and I've read this through research, that if you do something new or challenge yourself, that actually helps our Parkinson's, you know, as well to do something new. And certainly I wouldn't sort of consider myself particularly sort of creative, but I've heard and seen with, you know, research as well, that people with Parkinson's, you know, can actually become extremely creative. And just when you talk about coloring books, I actually got this in Lidl, which is kind of a discount store here, you know, and it has sort of different things that you can color in and that. So yeah, I mean, we could definitely do it, you know, a cost-effective way. And you mentioned coloring apps. Are there any particular ones that you recommend, or?
There's quite a few. I would have to email you if that's okay, because I don't remember them off the top of my head.
I suppose if you just search coloring app.
Yeah, if you just search coloring app. But I would recommend, especially if you're trying to engage your hand in writing more, to definitely grab that coloring book versus your phone.
Yeah, okay. So I just got a question here. Are there any types of stationery that can help with micrographia? And also, are there any sort of, weighted pens or tools that can help in terms of writing?
Yes, very good question. So we actually have a wide-lined notebook that we use for all of our participants, and that is a different type of paper, right? If you think about regular lined paper, as you see here on my screen, the lines are very, very small. And so when you're dealing with micrographia and if you're using small lined paper, that's going to hinder you from writing larger, writing more legible, because your spacing is already very small. So in our research, we found that wider lined paper actually makes a huge difference and a huge benefit. And so we do have that resource available on our website. As far as weighted pens go, you have to be careful when it comes to weighted pens. There's a lot out there. Some of them, if they have too much weight, they can tend to feel too bulky and uncomfortable on your hand. And some of them may not have enough weight. And so with weighted pens, it's very individualized on preference, and it's individualized with writing aids as well. So that's why when in our workshops, we send out writing aids, and we typically tend to send the ones that our folks with Parkinson's have used in the past and have liked the most. But when it comes to things that are weighted, you definitely want to make sure that there's at least more than half a pound to a pound of weight on that pen or that weight that you can use for writing. And again, I love to say that, especially when it comes to writing aids, if I might like a particular writing aid, doesn't mean that Richelle's going to like it, right? So it's very individualized. And so that's why it's important to experiment with more than one to see if you do like it and if you want to continue using it.
Yeah, I know from my own experience, I've tried various different things, and I think it comes down to comfort. So I actually got the book myself, the Let's Combat. So just to show people sort of, so you have different sort of exercises and that inside the book. So, do the different weeks of the program bring you through different things?
Yes. So handwriting, is a very process-oriented approach, right? Many people, unfortunately, many of the times think that all they need to do is pick up their pen or pencil, and start writing. Believe it or not, when we're living with micrographia, there's a lot more that we have to do. The first step, which we talked about today, was that acceptance and being more receptive and positive. From that, we work on everything from posture to figuring out what the right writing instrument, right writing aid for you may be. And so every week it's a progression, right? We build upon that. And through that, we're building our confidence. We're being more receptive. We're learning different methodologies, different research-based methods that are going to allow us to have that handwriting. And, again, many people start seeing that difference in as little as 3 to 6 weeks.
I suppose just one question just about posture that you mentioned, Saba. What would be sort of, a key tip for people when they're trying to write?
Definitely. So one very important thing is you want to make sure that wherever you're seated, you're comfortable, right? You want to make sure you have that good back support. You want to make sure your feet are flat against the floor. And another very important thing, oftentimes, many of us, when we're writing, we don't necessarily, sometimes we may just be writing on a counter. We might be writing on, in a situation that might not be fully comfortable. And so comfort is very, very big. We want to make sure that you have enough room on your, whatever the level, right? Sometimes our chairs are up too high, or sometimes our chairs are down too low. So you want to make sure you have that right ratio.
Okay. And in terms of, people who have tremors, is there anything in particular, because I don't suffer from a big tremor myself, but some of my colleagues do have quite a bad tremor. Is there any way around, that must be quite difficult to write?
Yes, so we actually just came out with this special paper that was developed to help people with tremors. And I do have, it's not directly in front of me, but if anyone has more questions on that, Richelle, I can send you more information on that. But with tremors, it's extremely, extremely hard because, with that shakiness, sometimes it's just very hard to hold our pen steady, pen or pencil. And so one thing that'll help with that is having some type of weight, right? And then, so with this special paper that we created, it actually has indents in it to allow, a person who's hand made tremor to stay within that lines, to relearn their alphabet again, to relearn their numbers again.
Oh, interesting. So I wonder in terms of art, because I know with my daughter, she has problems staying within the lines of a drawing. And actually an OT had said that you can get raised line drawing paper as well to keep you inside. So maybe that's something similar, is it?
I've never used raised line paper for art, so I can't necessarily comment on that.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about art is, even if you do have a tremor, right, there's no right or wrong way to do art, right? No one says that you need to stay within the lines. And that's a very, very important thing that, I think many people with, I mentioned early on that people are hesitant to go to art workshops or art classes, and because they think their art needs to be perfect. And that is totally not the case. That is not what we promote in our Smile Through Art workshops. We want you to be able to use your, tremor as a benefit to creating that art. And we show you ways that you can do that. And then in the end, you embrace that tremor instead of feeling burdened by it.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thanks very much. It's been an extremely positive session. Thanks again, Saba. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.